It's Carne. Smashed Plastic. The men behind Smashed Plastic. The record press in Chicago are in my car. My car is a Mazda that I acquired from the Autobarn Mazda of Evanston, which was recently named Dealer of the Year by DealerRater.com for 2019. No small accolade there. And we are in a Mazda 3, and I should mention the all-new 2019 Mazda 3 sedan and hatchback have arrived and are now in stock. I love the Mazda 3. And I love you guys. I love you three guys. It is Andy, Steve, and John from Smashed Plastic. I have tacos from a sketchy grocery store about a mile away. Are you ready to eat them?
Cool. I mean, why not?
Okay.
It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
And I also own a Mazda, too.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well,
It's a Mazda 5.
Mazda 5, a
Yeah.
lovely vehicle.
Yeah.
Lovely
Great.
vehicle. And safe?
Very safe. I've owned it for 11 years. It's kept me wonderful for 11 years.
I know at some point I should upgrade my car, but I'm at the point where I kind of want to ride it until it's like a Flintstones cartoon, where I close the door and it just falls apart piece by piece.
Exactly.
Feet go through the floorboard.
I'm right there with you.
Is this car more older than Andy's? This doesn't seem like you got some years, you know?
All right, so there's nowhere to eat it where Smashed Plastic is. We're in a terrible food neighborhood. So I brought food to you, and I first tried to go to El Patron because I love the tacos at El Patron.
yeah.
Too.
It was pandemonium in there, and they could not get their orders straight. People were complaining at the counter. No one was sure where the line started or stopped, and I stood there for a while. I thought, no, I'm going to throw the dice and see where else I can find. So there's a Hispanic grocery store about 3 blocks west of there. Inside is a taqueria. It looked like they were closing up. They only had 2 meats left, so I got El Pastor and steak. No pollo tonight. I almost got horchata. I love a good horchata. But they serve it with a ladle, and there was only about 3 inches left of horchata in the cooler. So yeah, I chose to not. So help yourself to tacos. Let's talk about Smashed Plastic. The elevator pitch for Smashed Plastic is... Who doesn't have a mouthful
Yeah,
of food?
thanks. Yeah, I got tacos in my mouth.
This is Andy talking.
Yeah, this is Andy. Yeah, and with tacos in my mouth. And they're not bad.
Okay, good.
They're
Yeah.
very good on the grocery store taco list, for sure.
And about $2 cheaper per taco than El Patron.
There you go.
See?
And
You
now
run a startup, you can appreciate
I'm
thrift.
spilling-
Benefit analysis.
And I'm spilling it all over your Mazda interior here.
Oh,
so
please.
Sorry about that.
I've had people spill much bigger than that.
Yeah, so the elevator speech. Smash Plastic. Yeah, we are the only record pressing plant in Chicago. We just opened on February 2nd officially. We started this whole journey probably 3 years ago with the idea of bringing a record pressing plant to Chicago because there wasn't one here. And
Which seems crazy to me.
Yep.
We thought that all along.
This being the music hub that it is, and I think people are slowly realizing that. What's the closest one to here? Is there even one in Illinois?
No.
Cleveland.
Holy
Cleveland
God.
and Detroit.
Cleveland, Detroit, yeah.
Well, for years, I mean,
Yeah.
didn't record pressing places all but shut down like 20 years ago?
For sure, yeah. There were only a few factories left in the United States, bigger ones. And then, as the boom started happening really 10 years ago, started picking up. And it's been people kind of feel like it's a spike. It's really been kind of a slow climb to where we are now.
Oh, Steve looks like he could use a napkin. He looks like he's about to wipe it on his jeans.
No, I'm pointing
I've
to see
got
if anybody
one.
wants a steak.
Yeah, I've got one. Yeah, so anyway, then all of a sudden, smaller plants started popping up, but there was still an issue, and it was an issue when we started, to find machines. So people were rehabbing old machines. Some of the machines that were originally here in Chicago 30 years ago ended up in Kansas and got rehabbed. So, people were bringing up machines from Mexico and rehabbing
Digging them up, literally. Some
Yeah.
old, broken down machines was the only way to go.
So when I
It's hard to base a business off a machine
Sure.
that
is
might
of
break down.
questionable, yeah.
Conditions. Especially when you own one.
40-year-old
Yeah.
40-year-old technology.
So that really didn't appeal to us at all. And there was a company out of Germany at first that was doing new machines that quickly got into the business and then quickly kind of disappeared from the business as well. So as we started going down this path about 2 years ago, Viral Technologies out of Toronto had basically launched their first plant here in the United States with a couple machines. So we went down there. Steve and I flew down and went to see them and saw them in operation. Actually, one of their techs from corporate from Viral Tech was there even, which was I also thought was kind of cool. And yeah, so we saw the new machines and we thought, well, this is the path we need to go. And then that's just where our pain just started. But, then we had to figure out all the extra ancillary equipment that goes into
Where to put it, how to
putting it
build
down.
it.
Yeah, what building's going to let us do this in. And we have
Because it's loud.
It's loud. We have a large chiller. I mean, we have a chiller with a large condenser up on a roof. We needed to have first floor access because we have to run pipe up to the roof. Not every building wants you to do that.
And our press is 10 tons, so you need to be able
Yeah,
to have
that
a
is a
floor
monster,
that
yeah.
supports that. And I
Yes.
think when we first started, thinking about this, the idea was like, oh, I could just get something and put it in my garage and make some records when I have time. But it's not quite that easy.
There's a lot of thought, a lot of project management getting that up and running.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news is we just kind of tackled one problem at a time.
Otherwise, it would have been overwhelming.
Yeah, and it was at times. It was absolutely overwhelming at times. I'm not sure I would if I knew how much. I'm loving it now, but if I knew how much pain it was, I'm not sure. Future me would have told the current me back then to do this. But
Well, Andy, you just said something. When we were inside, when you gave me a tour, which is on the Carco and Carne Facebook page and the Carco and Carne YouTube, you were saying it's still really fun for you. I mean, you have days
Sure.
that are maybe less fun, but I mean, with a smile on your face, you said, I still have fun every day.
yeah. I mean, I thought about it this morning. I was on vacation a little bit last week, and I was getting in the car driving to work this morning. And, nobody likes getting up on a Monday and driving to work, right? And I was driving along, and I thought to myself, well, this beats doing what most people are doing today. I'm going in and I'm making records, and I get to listen to records after I'm done making those records. So,
That's the American dream.
sure, why not?
Kind of is. And then, like Andy said, we've recently seen our records make it to stores, get into people's
Yeah.
hands, go across the country.
That's thrilling.
It's kind of
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, John
Oh,
was
no, it
just
totally
in
is.
San Francisco. He's at Amoeba Records in San Francisco and sees a record that we pressed all
Damn.
the way on the other coast. So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Like we've had guys come in and hug us because they were so happy that we're making their record. Like they're almost in tears.
Yeah, we've had clients hug
Like,
us. Yeah, that's
They are so
people
excited
don't
to
get
get we
that.
are making their record.
I wanted to hug you, and you didn't even press anything for me.
We'll give you
I'll
a
take
hug.
a hug.
We'll give you a hug.
I just enjoyed being in there so much. But it's interesting. I mean, you, like any good startup, you identified a need, and there was clearly a need. I mean, this music community, it was dying for this. And my perception of pressing vinyl has been since obliterated, but my perception was always vinyl's out of reach. You need to be wealthy to do a vinyl release.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of bands have thought here in Chicago, and that's you just basically said why we opened the place. And we set our minimums at 250 here, as most plants are at 500 for records. So because we wanted an entry point for people who aren't doing vinyl right now. Somebody who maybe is only doing a digital release. We wanted to make it accessible and also kind of take that fear out of it too. Being able to talk to the owners, talk face to face. We can walk you through the process. And as
It
you
is
saw,
interesting. You don't have like a rate card on your website.
No.
And I think that speaks to what you're talking about right now, is just developing that relationship and kind of knocking down those perceived barriers.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely, there's so many different elements that goes into each order. We thought it was crazy just to throw up a rate card because there's so many different things.
Yeah,
that
and more
play
importantly,
out.
like Andy just said, there's so many options for any release. And then when we were dealing with customers that may have never pressed vinyl before, to try to show them on a rate card or something like, here's everything you need, and here's the 10 different options, whether it's the covers or the different types of mastering or the different types of format. We have a lot of that interaction. We bring people into our space. We talk to people very directly about what the options are. We show them. But to try to abstract it even further by saying, hey, you could have a gatefold or a triple gatefold, trying to explain that to someone that's never done vinyl before can be a really tricky kind of thing that we're usually walking into that process.
So we did the Facebook Live, and you gave me the tour of how things are done. I saw how quickly records can get pressed. I mean, it's a shockingly fast and efficient process for a run like you're talking about, like a 250 pressing. Is that a day's worth of work? Like,
it
what
should
kind
be
of
about a
turnaround?
half a day. Yeah, it should be about a half a day's of work. I mean, the one thing you didn't get to see is how long it takes us to kind of get the machine set up and get it ready to roll.
And
so
there's
there
also
is some
sort
of that.
There's
but-
a middle step in there too, where
Yeah.
we do a test press, and we kind of alluded to it. But so
Yeah.
we probably don't run everything as soon as we get it. There's a little bit of setup, like Andy said. There's a little bit of a timeline of the process. But then when we do that test pressing, that's the great opportunity for the band, the artist, the label to actually see what we're going to press before we press 250 of them or 500 of them, and it might not be what they're expecting. So
Well, and I also think it's important for people to know that the only thing we actually do here in this facility is make the actual record. We still have to rely on printers to get us the labels. We have to rely on lacquer cutters to cut the lacquer that creates the grooves in the record, and then that goes off to a plating plant, and that makes the negative of the record that goes into our machine.
That's so cool.
all this stuff we have to kind of line up and make sure all that's ready to roll before that machine ever goes on. So there is a lot of elements and steps
Sure.
to it. We're just kind of the end product. Now, saying that, we can also take customers from the beginning all the way through because we have those relationships with the places that do the cutting and do the plating.
And I would imagine a customer, a band musician, would be preferring a one-stop solution.
Certainly. Most of them do.
Soup to nuts, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's some more sophisticated people who've been doing records for a very long time, and they're doing business with us as well, who literally have their plates sent to us, have their labels sent to us, and we're fine with that as well. It's nice. It's nice to kind of have both clients. But yes, we can also handhold somebody who literally just walked out of the studio and has no idea what to do. We can take them and walk them through the process.
And I'd say even a step further, too, because we work with the same mastering engineers and plating companies, we've developed an expertise where if somebody, there are adjustments to be made at every step in the process. So if we receive audio from somebody and we know that it's not going to exactly translate to what they're thinking on vinyl, we work direct with our lacquer cutting engineer to kind of make adjustments or talk, kind of give that feedback to our client. So at every step of the way, we're trying to, optimize what we're ending up with our end product. And because we know how the vinyl is going to sound, we know how it's going to translate, we know how it's going to sound on multiple different turntables, we're able to provide that for someone that hasn't really gone through that process, directly themselves.
I love that. And as a service, as a resource to this community, I mean, I saw all kinds of different artists getting their records pressed here. I saw an ambient artist. I saw a ska artist. I know William Steffi just had his record pressed here.
Yep,
right.
I mean, you're servicing everybody. I mean, you're a fantastic resource for the Chicago music scene.
Well, certainly. And we have to, of course we're going to get it all because we have it all here in Chicago, right? All kinds
sure.
of different genres, all walks, so.
The idea of holding on to something, I collected records for many years. I collected them through most of the 90s. And then, kind of what we were talking about briefly, all the record plants started closing. People weren't pressing records anymore. I had a big CD collection at that time. I thought, well, shit, maybe I'll just donate all my records. Maybe it's time. You move with vinyl enough and you think, oh, I can't do that. I don't have...
Right.
I've lost so many friends along the way who've helped me move those records.
Right.
What was it? You talked about the boom. What was it, you think, that brought people back? Was it had we swung so hard in the digital direction that we really missed the collectability or just the tactile?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I think. I think the one thing that I always use and I always say is that when it became... I've always been a major music collector, and one of the greatest things about records is discovery, right? You've discovered some band that somebody else doesn't know, right? Everybody loves that. Or in a conversation, the one thing people always say, right? Oh, I have that record, right? Oh, I have that record. Well, then the minute Spotify comes along and everybody has that record. You pick up your phone and you're like, no, I've got that record. It's right here in my phone.
Yeah.
So it just devalued everything.
For
so
sure.
now all of a sudden, I think people are seeing that value and owning something tactile and owning something and actually really saying, yeah, this is me. And now on the artist side of that, the way I look at it is, it's like, well, anybody can record something in their back bedroom and throw it up on the internet and say they've made a record, but have you really made a record?
Right.
Yeah, and I think almost the opposite. Like, someone would say, I would be saying, do I have that record? Like, when I downloaded all that free music online, and it was on iPod, and you couldn't even tell the cover art back when it was original. I didn't know if I still don't know if I have some records digitally,
Right, you might
because
have.
it's a big dump sometimes. And that was almost the exact opposite of what you were just describing, James. When you were young and you were collecting it or you were discovering it, the whole point was to sit with it and have it and enjoy it, and you couldn't buy every record. Now that you can have every record in your pocket or whatever, every album, every recording in your pocket, it's a very different interaction with music.
Well, and also now that artists aren't making the same amount of money as they did 20, 30, 40 years ago when you had mega bands that sold platinum style, records, and then that's where they made all their money. records are another way to support bands, especially local bands, and that's what I've always done. It's like, okay, if I'm at a local show at the Bottle or the Hideout, and I'm digging the band, I'm going to give them that $20 on the way out the door for the record. I might not listen to that record right away. It might sit in my collection. I love when I'm pulling one out from 5-6 years ago, and I'm like, oh man, I remember this show. It was great.
Yeah.
You put the record on, you're like, wow, it's still great.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
it right there.
It's a memory. It's a, going back to the tactile, like, I can listen to Spotify in my car. I can listen to it when I'm running, whatever. But like, if I put a record on, you sit down and listen to it. Like, it's an experience more than it is. You pay attention to the record.
That's it,
right?
and that's what I tell people too. The difference to me, coming back to vinyl after all those years away, when you put on a side of a record, you are locked in for 20 minutes.
Right.
When I'm listening to a playlist on my Google Play Music, I am ADD. I'll listen to the first 30 seconds of a song and I'm just powering through it. But when you put on an album side, you're in it.
Right.
The bad songs and the good.
Right.
You're experiencing that artist and that artistic work as it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah,
For sure.
and don't get me wrong. I think there's both. There's space for both in lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm out jogging, I'm not listening to a record or whatever. If it's on in the background, things going on in the house. Same way people use television too,
Sure.
right? You've got something you kind of care about or some documentary you really have to sit down and dig into. It's kind of the same idea. The one thing I do think that digital goes hand in hand with vinyl is that it is nice now that people can actually sample a little bit of what they want before they buy it too.
True.
So I think there's still an element there that where they do go hand in hand.
I should mention Carne, presented by the Autobarn Mazda of Evanston, here with the gentleman behind Smashed Plastic on the west side of Chicago. A record, what's the technical term? A record pressing facility? A
Record pressing plant.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
We call it the plant.
I'm going to ask an important question yet. Do I get a taco?
You haven't got any tacos yet.
Man, we
I've been
devoured
sitting-
ours back here. They're gone. Yeah.
I just need one. Well, I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to eat.
That sounds good. Got a lot
You're
to
old.
Yeah.
So, all right, what hooked each of you? I'll go around. What hooked each of you into vinyl? Was it, or do you remember the first record you ever bought? We'll start in the back seat.
Yeah, the first record I owned was Police Synchronicity. Mm-hmm. And I don't, before that I also had I'm the youngest of four, so I had, the hand-me-down records. So I think it was always something that was going on in my house.
Yeah. The first record I ever had was Michael Jackson Thriller. I remember when
course.
it came out. Yeah, that was
Same year as Synchronicity.
that was a four. Yeah, I think everybody was excited about that. But I remember having all of it. I remember the actual gatefold sleeve, and it had the Michael Jackson, laid out, and it had I remember the lyric sheet had the drawings of Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, like a hand-drawn thing of them singing the duet, "The Girl Is Mine." I mean, all
my
that stuff,
God.
like you said, has a real important kind of connotation, not just hearing a song even. And then we always joke about it, or we were just talking about it recently. I think last Christmas the biggest seller in the UK was portable turntables for kids 11 to 13 or whatever the age was.
Yep.
Getting kids that never knew what a record was. They're so young that they didn't grow up seeing them or even know what they are, like to still have interest in that and want to have the item, like you said, the art, the piece of art, the actual thing that they can put on their shelf that they can give to someone. They can, everything about it, the tactile part of it, they never were exposed to that, and it still resonates with young people, which is kind of cool.
What do you, Steve?
Yeah, and I'm going to be a copycat. I was Michael Jackson Thriller too. So, but I mean, I remember listening to records as a kid. And, my mom was a Kenny Rogers fan, so like listening to The Gambler and like hanging out to that, and then the Muppets Christmas Carol. We had that on. I'm looking for that now for my kids. But
I had the Star Wars soundtrack too, which
yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh my God.
Big thing on vinyl back
That's awesome.
then. Yeah, that was a big one.
But it's all the memories that kind of sprung up. Going back, my parents moved, and finding all their records now, and the memories that came along with those. It's really kind of neat to have that.
Now that you mention it, my first record has to have been those plastic Fisher-Price records with
With
the little knobs in it.
We have one at home. Yes.
Oh my God. I guarantee you that was my first.
My 3-year-old when I telling him about records, and he like ran up and got it and like brought it down. He's like, "Here's my record player."
That's adorable. Well, and one of the things too, for years, buying records or collecting records required owning a turntable and a receiver and speakers. Cost prohibitive for someone who maybe just have a casual interest, but now for $80 you can buy a turntable.
Right.
Oh, you
Right.
can buy one for probably $6 at a thrift store. That's how I got my first record player. And when I was growing up too, and I was whatever, a teenager, not even old enough to go to actual shows most of the time, I had a used thrift store record player. All the bands that I wanted to see, the punk bands, all made 7 inches. I had only 7 inches. That's all you could even buy the music on back then. It was when CDs. I mean, I'm pretty old, when it was when CDs weren't even in households. People didn't even have, like, what do you call, like, deck CD players at that point. So I think they're out there for sure. But like you said, they've been marketed in a way where you can buy them affordably. You can buy portable ones. You can buy. You almost have to have all the things that you had to have, a receiver, a preamp, cords, any of that kind of stuff. Now, a young person can buy something from Urban Outfitters and be plugged in within.
Exactly. I mean, I remember making those trips to Radio Shack to get the speaker wire, and then trimming them and getting the cable plugged in the back of the speaker. So, as a startup, Smash Plastic, it's fun, it's amazing, it's a resource. How draining is it? Just are you here 20 hours a day? Because I know getting something like this off the ground.
I mean, there's been some long days, but the long days aren't that bad,
Well, you're with your friends. And
Today's a long day. But hey, we pressed records this morning. I'm sitting in a car talking to you now, James. I mean, this isn't
eating
a bad
tacos.
day.
Yeah,
I'm eating tacos. This isn't a bad day. No,
Living
I mean,
the dream.
It really. I mean, I think what was way more draining for all of us. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm sure they would agree with me, was just getting this thing up off the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, that was way more draining. Those days were awful. And I remember at the time people saying to me, well, you're never going to notice the minute you turn that machine on and you're in actual business. But,
waiting for a contractor to show up.
Yeah.
And when are they going to do it? And are they going
that
to,
part's-
like all of
that part's
the pain.
never fun. Yeah, and it was hard, right? Like, I mean, sometimes I think when we do interviews and we talk to people or we talk to clients, sometimes people, I think we're so casual about it that it's like, oh yeah, it's just the easiest thing in the world to do. No, it really isn't.
We turn out a record every 30 seconds.
No, it really isn't that easy to do. But, I mean, I'm not saying that we're geniuses for doing it. Anybody can figure it out. We figured it out. But I'm just saying it took a lot.
Yeah, and I'll say on the other end of it too, like we had this grand opening party. We saw a lot of people. A lot of people saw us. They saw that our space was done and finished and was real. We were making records, and you have multiple people come up to me and say, thank you for taking a risk on this. Like, I'm a musician, and everybody kind of knows that this would have been great, but we realize that it takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of risk, and a lot of people literally phrased it like that, where I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me, that a musician or a band is now excited that this is an option for them, and it took a lot. They couldn't do it themselves, and a lot of people said, a lot of people said, well, what prevents some other people from doing this? And maybe nothing, except for all the work and all the time and all the dedication and all the actual labor and all. So a lot of the stuff, like, you're right, it kind of gets overlooked a little bit, but we're really proud of where we're at now, and we're hoping to.
I'm so excited you exist. I know you've heard it from all the musicians. I'm just so excited you're here.
We are too.
Yeah, no, we're excited. I mean,
it's been 2 or 3 years of our life that we've to get here, and it's great.
So what's obviously when you start a business, there's a 5-year plan, maybe a 10-year plan. Is this something you thought about? Maybe not. Is this something you thought about taking to other cities, major markets that don't have something like this?
No. There is, Chicago is enough.
Yeah. Well, that's the other. I mean, Steve just said it. Chicago's enough. We really haven't been doing business without even people who have approached us from outside the market, because we don't even want to try to figure out shipping right now.
Good point.
And because there's enough business right here. I think internally we've always said, if we can throw a wall around Chicago and get all the business that's here, we will have a nice, thriving business.
Yeah, and I would say more importantly, a big pain point of the way people have been doing it for years is the shipping part of it. There's a lot of time and money. There's damaged goods. There's having someone to receive it. There's things get lost in the mail. There's
warping.
Like I said, there's a ton of problems with shipping.
God, that
something
sounds like a pain in the ass in every possible way.
Well, they talk about
fragile.
summer. The heat.
Yeah.
They sit on a loading dock, and you lost 500 records because they sat in the sun for 8 hours.
Super fragile, and it's critical that they're
that would
treated
get you in the
right.
hole really quick.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
And it's kind of this whole micro, manufacturing that's going on in this building, in this town. It's just kind of neat to be able to now have access to a machine that can produce a record at an efficient enough pace to create a business that can serve just the local community.
Yeah. I love it. So the space, we talked about the listening room. You're going to do events and stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're working on stuff all the time. I mean, we've got some great ideas. We mentioned to our clients, use our space to help you sell records. If you're a label, use our space to help promote your label to your client, who is the artist. And those artists who've worked really hard, we want them to come in and experience them seeing their art being made, seeing those grooves.
There's
come
nothing
out.
like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I love it. All right, so smashplastic.com
Yep.
is where people can begin their journey, and like we said, they'll have to contact you, and you will guide them. I mean, and just hearing the way you describe this, the enthusiasm and the commitment, and just the earnestness
Definitely.
you convey, I think that's really appealing to the musicians of this city. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for opening this. A grateful city thanks you.
Well, thank you.
This is
You're
great.
welcome, though. Thanks for
inviting
having us.
on, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry if the
Thanks for the
tacos are cold.
tacos.
No, the tacos are great.
Oh, they were good.
Yeah.
You know, when you're hungry, a cold taco is just as good as anything else, right?
I'd say medium warm.
Carne is presented by the Autobarn Mazda of Evanston. If you like what you hear, please, by all means, tell a friend, carne.com. Anywhere you download podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Apple, iHeart, TuneIn. I'm out. All right, thanks.